So we're seeing this continuation to the downside play out on ADA from my previous update, where I mentioned how I was tracking the WXY structure, and I set out the Y wave to then tap into this range between 27 to 27.33 cents. And here you can see that we just about exceeded that range. And so from here on out, what we can see is either a continuation to the downside to the point where the price of ADA would then breach below the local bottom at 26.7 cents, or what we could see is a reversal to the upside where we then breach above the wave W at 29.38 cents. And so, yeah, there is still further confirmation that's required to determine if whether or not we are bullish or bearish. And of course, the bearish case will be for the price of ADA to then breach below this level. If it does so, that then confirm that what we are forming is a deeper correction made up of a bigger WXY structure. And should that be the case, what I do is I'll set out the Y wave target. And that Y wave would typically be generated between 1 to 1.236 of the W wave, and that range sits between 25.23 cents to 25.97 cents. And so if I adjust this to over here, so that would be the Y wave target and the bearish case. The bullish case would be for a reversal to take place and for the completion of this X wave, where that X wave could potentially bottom out at 26.89 cents, and then we see a reversal take place to form the Y wave, where that Y wave will then have the potential to retest the 200 DMA. And so if I set out the Y wave target for the bullish case, and here you can see that the Y wave has the potential to regenerate between 29.59 cents to 30.26 cents. And so, yeah, it will be interesting to see where it heads next. Now, typically the X wave would reach anywhere between 50 to 18.2% of the W wave. And if I just bring in the Fib2 to over here, what you can see is that range sits between 27 cents to 28.01 cents. And as it stands right now, it looks like we ended up actually breaching below the 18.2% retracer level. And usually that signals that we are bearish. And so it wouldn't surprise me if we continue to see a move to the downside and the price of ADA will then breach below the local bottom at 26.7 cents. And so as it stands, there is a high potential that we could see a deeper correction that's forming, made up of a bigger WXY structure where that Y wave could then tap into this range here between 25.22 cents to 25.95 cents. And so if I go in the daily chart, it actually looks more clearer as to what could actually be taking place. In fact, if I drop down to the 8-hour chart instead. And so what I'm looking at for right now is for something to this effect take place. And you can see that there is a buy order within the Y wave target, and this will be a good opportunity to be buying in at lower prices. Now, on the stochastic RSI, the bears are slowly starting to lose the momentum, and so at some point I will be looking out for the bulls to regain control of the market. And should that be the case, the 20 and the 50 EMA will be two key levels to be keeping an eye on. If we continue to get rejected at both EMA levels, that would then signal that we're bearish, and we'll see a continuation to the downside where the Y wave would then play out. However, if we were to breach above both the 50 and the 20 EMA, then this region will be one to be keeping an eye on. And from then on out, it will be interesting to see if we continue to make a move to the upside. And should that be the case, what we'll see forming is a bigger WXY structure form to the upside, where that Y wave could then even retest the 200 EMA, which during the time of recording sits at around 34 cents. And what is interesting about this region is if we were to tap into this range, that could then potentially mean that we could have bottomed out at this level here at around 22 cents. Given that I am tracking a 5-way structure to the downside. So if I go on the 4-hour chart instead, so what you can see, if I just remove some of this, is I've been tracking this 5-way structure. And usually in Elliott Wave Theory, what you can't have for a 5-way structure to be valid is the wave 4, which is this wave here, cross the wave 1, and that level is at 29.38 cents. If it just so happens that the wave 4 crosses the wave 1, that would then mean that this structure is invalid, and we have another structure that's forming instead. But for now, I'm anticipating a continuation to the downside where the price of ADA could then even tap into this range between around 10 to 15 cents. And reason being is because currently I'm tracking the X wave, which is made up of an internal WXY structure. And following this, I will be looking out for the reversal to the upside where we're going to begin to track the wave Y. And the wave Y has the potential to reach some high targets. But of course, that's something I'm going to be looking at for in the days and weeks and months to come, and I'll keep you guys updated.